Peace, y'all. We made it. You work out today? Did you work out today? I didn't ask if you went to the gym. I asked if you worked out. The systems, man. You can't beat the system. The system. You have to come up with a system. The system being a routine. It's a mechanism. It's mechanical. You know, it works a certain kind of way. We're going to apply that to our daily rituals or our daily routine, right? It's the systems. It's the system. So, point in case, you know, I asked you, did you work out today? Once that's a part of your system, it doesn't really, nothing really gets in the way of it, right? Not of the mechanics, unless something has to get fixed, right? Nothing different than, you know, you having a mechanical issue with, you know, your vehicle, your car, or you know, your dishwasher, washing machine, dryer, something like that. You have to fix it. Okay. Mechanical system is designed to perform a certain task, right? And it's going to perform that task a certain kind of way. All right. So the system, it's the systems to develop the systems as creators, right? We are creators. Create a system that's conducive to you manifesting your vision, whatever that vision may be, right? The system is more important than the end goal, or even the system is more important than the actual task. And, you know, the example I'm gonna use is, you know, in a basketball game, right? In sports, right? You got one coach, you know, coaching against another coach, right? And then you have a team that's going against the opposite team, right? Now, the goal is to win the contest, right? And that's the common goal that each team shares. What is the determining factor, or what becomes the detriment, right? One could say, for sake of the conversation, that it's the systems in which each team practices and how often they practice it. Okay, it becomes, you know, repetition, right? Okay, so we're really putting our systems in contest, if that makes sense. So at the end of the day, in basketball, the common goal is to win the game, you know, and the bigger goal might be to win, you know, the championship. More important than the game, and more important than, you know, the championship, which is sort of the end goal, right? It's the systems. It's the systems that we have to implement, and how well the systems work, or how well that, or how often we implement it, the systems, you know, and what we're practicing. And that will determine, you know, if our mechanics is, you know, faulty, if it's something that needs to be tweaked. It may not be the whole thing, but, you know, okay, we drew up this play, right? Just for example, right? For instance, we draw up a play, and it's a ISO for when our point guard has a big on them, and they're going to ISO, and they're going to use the disadvantage for having the big outside of his comfort zone, and the point guard goes ISO and supposed to score. Now, if all we're playing is teams that run a team defense, and that's like a 2-3, so to speak, and that situation never really presents itself, then we might need to tweak our plays, because we're practicing a play that we don't get to run in the game, if that makes sense, right? Or we drew up a play, that we don't practice because we don't get to run it. So we have to we have to implement something else in this place, you know, because we're really not, that's obsolete. The purpose of the video is develop a system. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the vision is. Your system is going to carry it. You know, if you take myself, you know, we, family, you know, job, health, and everything else that go along with it, right? It's easy to get not distracted, but get taken off your square and get pulled in the direction of something that's prioritized, that's taking, you know, that's going to require a lot of your attention at that particular moment. Okay, what's been a challenge of mine over the years was being able to have a system where, as though, listen, I'm prioritizing 1, 2, 3, and then everything else after that. And that is something that has to be implemented, but not only implemented, it has to be reminded, and it has to be built into the system, because actually having your attention span or your focus all over the place just by, you know, being a man, right? Like so many others. That's sort of like having that play drawn up when you got the guard and the big. If you got the guard, and if that situation never presents itself in actual contest, it's not going to carry. You gotta implement something else. You know, that play becomes obsolete. We need to work on something else that is good on the zone defense when they playing team defense. So that gotta be the system. And the system has to be prioritized. 1, 2, 3, and then everything else. And that has to be your system. And that becomes the routine. Whether you feel like it or not, you should be doing it second nature. You know, it's like, it's a mechanism. It's functioning a certain kind of way. As long as the machine got oiled, it's oiled up, ready to go, you done got your rest, it's like we on, it's up. We made it. You know, this is fruition. And that's the, you know, and you call the play and you run it the way it's supposed to be ran. Man, we got some work to do this year, you know. I was on a call last night, and coach had mentioned what does the past 6 months say about, you know, your progress or what you've really been doing? Okay, what have you done in the past year? What have you done in the past 6 months? Past couple years? And this is where the accountability and the analysis comes into play, and we have to audit ourselves, because it's easy to be saying to yourself or saying to others, people can say anything to anybody, right? That you're doing a certain kind of thing, and in actuality, if you turn around and reflect, well, you know, the past 24 hours, it might not be this, you don't have to go that far out, 6 months. In the past 24 hours, what have I done? What part of the system did I implement, if any? Now I'm gonna give you something. You don't have to set your intention on accomplishing 10 different things. This is why I said the system, right? You set out to do 10 different things, and then you're focused all over the place with no priority in what it is that you're supposed to be streamlining, zeroing in on, focusing in, zooming in, right? You wind up not getting none of them done. Set your intention on one thing that you can achieve in 24 hours within today, in a day's time, and you knock that down, and you mark that off. You know, mental note. You don't have to, you know, write it down, but you take down that one task that you achieved, right, and that you set to achieve, and you knock that down, and you build on that. that develops a system. You know, this is a new language for someone that doesn't know. You take someone on a you know, that wasn't really privy to working out, you know, for the majority of their life, you know. One, you know, getting out going for the walk. Look, we out here, man. Get out going for the walk is a task done. You build off of that. You got to set the groundwork up. It doesn't happen overnight. We're in the realm where instant gratification is a thing. I don't really know about that. Nothing ever happened overnight. You know, it takes a year for a kid, for a child to, you know, to grow and I guess what you call it, incubate, you know what I mean, inside the mother and gathering the data, the information, putting cells and things together, and before it's ready to, you know, a whole year before we even know, you know. So I just say all that to say the system has to do its job, and the system will work. We're creators. We can create a system that'll get you there. If you got the vision, that means you got the map. Create a system that goes with it. We're not in the era where you really have to do too much of asking a whole bunch of questions that you know the answer to. Shout out Coach Highsmith again. You said that last night. You know, you got to just be mindful of what you say to yourself, because you might say you're doing something that you're not doing. And you know that you know better. You know damn well you know better. So be mindful, be intentional, and set up the system, whereas though the system be carrying you through. You know, dang, we was in there for a couple hours. You know, we was working out, man. I talked to 20, 30 people the day already, just by the system, introducing them to information, you know, greeting people, meeting, you know, helping somebody out. You know, same thing with my student athletes. You know, it's the system. You have to show up every day, man. The work is the gift. If that's your craft, practice. This is how you know if it's for you. Young student athletes, man, listen up. Practice is a system. If showing up to practice is the issue, on time and ready with a positive attitude, and it doesn't feel like work, it feels like you can't wait to do practice again, it's for you. If that feels like work, that might not be for you. That's for motivational purposes only. That's not a discouragement. That's how the thing works. You know, you got to be a student. Listening is active. Listening is an active skill. Listening to learning. It's an active skill of learning. Everybody don't know. If you know it all, then you got nothing to learn. Listening and learning is a part of the system. You can't beat the system. You know, if you think you're just going to jump into something and go right to the end because you're looking at what you perceive someone else, everything ain't always what it look like. And people aren't always honest. So I don't really get into, you know, the chit chat, you know. You got to be able to use discernment. Use discernment. And, you know, and apply it. You know. But yeah, man, I mean, the system, peace, brother. The system, can't beat the system, man. Can't beat the system, man. You gotta let's go ahead and create good systems, positive systems, actionable systems. You know, wake up early and get to it, you know, and develop a habit with it, you know, and hopefully the rhythm picks up, and then we get in that algorithm to get some wins, you know. Information purposes, you know, me as well, you know, audit yourself. What did I do in the past 24 hours? 24 hours, we're not even going six months, a year ago. Cause we covered some ground, we know that. But where we getting to, we say this is our goal and this is where we headed to, right? You have to develop a system to get there. You're not mad. I'm not saying you have to know how you're going to get there, right? But you have to develop the system that's going to get you there. That's going to be the map, and it's going to carry you there. It's like catching a ride, like catching a train. You got to be there, so you got to be at that stop at a certain time. You got your ticket, you got your boarding pass, or you're going to miss it. Hey, man, I hope everybody has a truly wonderful, great everything. Peace.